Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Gavel Gang Podcast, an insight into the collections we get here at Eubanks Auction House in Surrey.
Hello, welcome to Eubanks. I'm here again with our esteemed art valuer, Philip Maggs.
Hello, everyone.
Nice to speak to you, Philip. It's been a while since we had a chat, but last time we spoke, we spoke a bit about the Ben and Wanwu artworks that we had last year, and we also had a chat about the John Plum sale. We've got some of these wonderful artworks around us now. Where are we going to start, Philip?
Well, I think just because you mentioned Ben and Wanwu, the first 8 lots of the sale are the work of Bruce Onobakpaya, who another sort of internationally acclaimed Nigerian artist. They've come in from 2 totally separate vendors who both live in the Guildford area, who worked in Nigeria in the 70s and met him as an artist. He's 93 now.
Right, still alive then?
Still alive, still going. He's got his own foundation. So there's 6 of his etchings, and he really was an outstanding printmaker. But we've also got 2 really good metal wall sculptures. One of them is a run of 30, it's number 5 of 30. And the other one, which is slightly larger, is 7 panels stuck together. And I think that's unique. So he's etched in there the names of each of the 7 panels. But that could do quite well.
I saw these in the sale room, so they're very striking. The larger, is it metal, you say?
Yeah. So they're metal, just on a wooden background, but incredibly striking.
Right.
Great to look at, and I think they should do well.
What do you got on the estimates on those for the original artworks and the prints?
So the prints are all at 1 to 200. It's probably conservative. The wall sculptures, I think, are at 4 to 600. Could do a lot more. I mean, particularly the wider one, which is 7 join panels. I mean, it really is quite unique. So
unusual to get these sort of Nigerian artists coming to an auction house, and it's probably off the back of the artwork that we sold last year. It
could well be. I think. I mean, it makes perfect sense that it is, but it's quite nice to have a number of Nigeria's sort of more critically acclaimed and internationally renowned artists.
So that's what kicks off the sale.
That kicks off the sale.
Any other highlights that you wanted to have a chat about today? Well,
next up in the sale is a set of works by Bob Law, who was he really was the focal point for a minimalist movement in the United Kingdom throughout the 60s, 70s and 80s. The works we've got here are from the 80s. There's 5 lots, and they start off with this one here, which is called Cast Black Diamond. It's bronze, it's incredibly heavy, and it's great to see. It's got lots of gallery labels on there, including the Carsten Schubert gallery, who dealt with him when he was alive.
So he was known for working in metals and bronzes?
Large scale sculptures, small scale sculptures, and also drawings.
Okay.
And works on canvas as well.
So this is obviously sort of imprint sign.
So 1980, Cast Black Diamond, Bob Law. It's even got a marker. It's one of 6, which is actually etched into the back as well.
So is this sort of thing typical of his work?
That's fairly typical. So a real minimalist look to it. And what follows from the same vendor is a set of 4 of these drawings, which, for anyone who knows Bob Law's work, will immediately recognise that as a theme he sort of returned to quite a few times. And there's varying colours in that, including one with a lot of colour, which is really unusual for him because he didn't often do that.
So you kind of have these colours bleeding in from the border here to is this a painted ground, or
I think that's just I think that is unpainted. It's just the colour of the paper, but.
So popular at the time as an artist?
I mean...
70s, 80s, are we talking about?
I mean, so with these avant-garde artists, it's always difficult to know if they were like really popular, but he was right there at the forefront. I mean, a little bit like John Plum, it's perhaps not for everyone, but the people who understand it and really love it. And they're all signed on the reverse. So this one, 28th of February, 1980. one I'm giving that. So and there's 4 of those.
4 of them in the sale.
Unframed, all the same size.
What kind of estimates do you have on these?
So I think I've been quite conservative here. The bronze, there's 8 to 1200, and the works on paper 500 to 1000.
Okay.
So broad estimate, but I think on the conservative side.
When we say conservative, small c with estimates,
Yeah,
we do that for a pretty specific reason, don't we? We want to try to encourage interest from bidders.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes you don't want to go too low because you've got to say, we're backing the pieces, but I think 500 to 1000, nice wide estimate. We know they've come from a good source.
Yeah.
But they're here to be sold. I think that's really what we're trying to say.
Great. What else did we have to look at today?
Well, there's a number of other quite interesting works from the same source. I mean, this sale's quite edgy in terms of it's quite avant-garde. There's not a lot of nice modern Brit stuff in there, but it is quite edgy. I'm quite excited about this. Yeah. We've got a set of works here. It's going to take some explaining, this one. These are by Stephen Preener, who is still alive. He's now a Harvard professor. There's 6 in the lot, and this is number 14 of 556. They're not prints. They are from a body of works he did called Exquisite Corpse, the complete paintings of Manet.
Okay.
So what he did, he bought the catalogue raisonné of Manet's works.
Right.
He went through it and he cut out a piece of paper the size of all of Manet's works.
Right.
And he did them in this sort of slightly sepia pinky wash, framed them, and they all went into an exhibition.
Right.
I think he was trying to deconstruct a great artist's work. I mean, we've gone from minimalist to sort of like a conceptual artist.
Conceptual. So these are this is one of 6.
No, this is number 14.
I see. Right.
Of 556.
Okay. Yeah.
That he did like this. We've got 6 in the sale. Mm-hmm. They're all in one lot, 3 to 5.
And they're all varying sizes based on the Manet work that they're based on.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple this size, and the larger one is probably 3 times this size, but all in one lot. I think when you went into the original exhibition, it would have really been quite stunning. But they've been,
and that's all the tickets on the back there. They're all various different exhibition labels, again, framing labels, and stuff on there as well.
Loads of lovely provenance here.
Right.
We've got Carsten Schubert Gallery, again, like the Bob Law works we saw earlier. We've got an original exhibition label here, and with even some hanging instructions, hang at eye level with several inches between the panels. So that's quite nice to have on there.
I think sometimes there can be a misconception with people. They say, well, it was my dad's, and that's the level of provenance.
Yeah, sure.
But how important is provenance with something like this? For the difference between this artwork coming in and you having to then try to identify it to someone coming in with a full of stickers and exhibition.
Well, I think when you get something like this in, or some of the minimalist art, or something we're going to look at in a minute, I think provenance becomes like almost the most important factor, because I know from the condition reports we get, the first question is, where did this come from?
Yeah.
So it's great when you can turn something over and it's all, the label's all there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's several galleries have handled this, as you can see, and the original.
Because obviously we can do lots of research. There's people we know that we can turn to and ask for advice on specific artists or genres. But having that is just invaluable, isn't it? It cuts out a lot.
It really is. Yeah. So that's all from the same vendor. So they're one lot. I've put them in at 3 to 500 for the 6. Okay. Which again, I think is quite conservative. The frames, as you can see, they've been reasonably well handled over the years. Yeah. The art, everything inside, the artworks the paper's absolutely fine, but the frames have had some pretty heavy handling on some of them. Yeah. But they are the original frames. And then from the same vendor.
Well, it brings me on to a quick question though. What do you say to people who come to you with a painting and say, should I get this reframed? It's in a battered old frame, but everything inside it looks fine.
If they were intending to put it into auction, I would always say, please don't get it framed, because framing is expensive. Yeah. And you can end up spending maybe a couple of £100 reframing something that ultimately someone's not going to like themselves and want to go and reframe it straight away. Yeah. So I mean, people really are buying the artwork. This slightly different because that's the exhibition frame where so all 556 would have been same frames.
Sure.
But other than that,
generally leave it alone is the advice.
leave it alone. Yeah, please leave it alone. Don't get it cleaned.
Yeah,
because again, people like to have their own restorers do the work. So I would just say leave alone.
Buyers like it, don't they? In that condition, we sold a painting with gravy marks on it once, and the advice we had was leave it on because it's had a life.
Exactly, and the chances are that if you or I bought it, we might take a slightly different view on how much we wanted it cleaned up, what we were prepared to live with. But if someone else has over cleaned it, they've made that decision for us. So ultimately, it might make it less desirable for us. So I would always say, just leave it alone. Yeah, please bring it in. Yeah. Probably the same for most things, actually.
I think you're right. Certainly things like silver, don't try and clean it because you might end up damaging it somewhere along the way.
That's a lot of work. Yeah. So from the same source as the Bob Laws and the Stephen Preener, we've got this. Oh, and again, I think these came from the Carsten Schubert Gallery, so there's a German connection there. But we've got a set of 4 drawings by Günther Forg. And these are again from the 1980s. They're dated, all of them November 1988. 3 of them on the front, and this one on the reverse there. As you can see, he's basically drawn them on the back of
envelopes.
Yellow envelopes. Yeah. So that's it. But again,
there's something he was known for doing. Generally, we just cut up.
No, he was yes. I think with the mediums he worked on were just so varied. He did some really big, large-scale works that were very formally organised. I mean, these just are literally drawings. But again, he was an abstract artist who died, I think, in about 2013. But again, they're all from the same source as the Bob Law and the Stephen Preener. So
what sort of estimates have you done?
So I've put the 4 in together. It's 1 to 2,000.
Okay.
But
so obviously the larger works for him will make a lot more.
Yeah. I mean, he was a major artist at the time. Okay. Yeah. I'm hoping we might attract some bidders from Germany for these because I think that's probably where his biggest collector market.
So if you are a fan of a particular artist, so this German artist here, this is a pretty cost-effective way to buy one of his artworks without breaking the bank.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And again, talking about framing, you could probably pop these in some sort of white box frame to make them look really important. You get the lighting right. I mean, you're buying everything that he's known for, but actually relatively inexpensively.
So again, private consignment these? They've come in from...
all from the same sources as the Stephen Preeners and the Bob Laws. So, all from the right London galleries. I think these ones don't have gallery labels on, but they've all come in
from a good source.
Yeah. I'm convinced that
very interesting.
That provenance stands. Yeah. Again, it's a very interesting sale, this one, to look at.
Yeah.
That said, there are some more traditional pictures that probably you'd think of when you think of a 20th century sale. So we've got a couple of works by Simeon Stafford. Again, these have both come in privately from a house just outside of Guildford. Nice scenes. The other ones of St Ives, but they're quite gutsy. They've got a lot going on in them.
Is this a Cornish artist then, or?
Yeah, so he's resident in Cornwall. He's still living.
Okay.
Still paints very much like this today, but I think
there's a kind of Lowry feel to it.
There is a Lowry feel to it. I mean, I think these probably would appeal to people who've perhaps holidayed down in the West Country.
Yeah,
it's just a happy,
great fun, isn't it?
It's a sort of thing. I think a lot of people would quite like going down and walking downstairs and seeing first thing every morning. I mean, it's a happy picture.
And above it, I can see, you've got maybe a more known name in terms of our sales, John Nash.
John Nash, not signed, but it's got the Artist Studio stamp on the reverse. It's called Gnarled Trees, executed in 1974, and it's got the New Grafton exhibition label on the back. Again, all about provenance. The New Grafton Gallery were known handlers of Nash's work, so that's no doubt in my mind.
Estimate on this one?
1 to 2,000. Okay. Again, I think that's quite conservative. It's towards the back end of John Nash's life, but it really is. When you say John Nash and a landscape, you really do think
picture that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So quite excited to have that in. Again, just a that's come in privately from a local house in Guildford.
Yeah.
So
and there's other works in the sale that you might associate with some local artists as well. So Cherie Valentine Danes, we've got
right,
one of
exactly.
The Girls with the Kites.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. That's one's 2,000. Again, I think that's a sensible estimate for that. We've got a Doily John in the sale. We've got a lovely David Inshaw work featuring a rainbow, which is
nice,
one of the better ones I've seen. It's a lovely. And there's some quite graphically edgy works. So there's some late 20th, early 21st century prints by people like Ben Ain, Fail, that are more along the street art, Sick Boys, all those people. I mean, we've had some really good collections come in for this. Yeah. So I'm excited to see how those do. We've got one of sort of a Banksy piece there, which was purchased from the Waldorf Hotel in Bethlehem, which is the Banksy designed hotel. It's got the original receipt there.
Yeah.
And again, there's part of a wall there, so printed background. That's how he wanted them framed. And there's a part of the wall.
And these are from a limited edition, I guess, and were they sold in the gift shop?
I believe they were sold in the Waldorf Hotel. Yeah. I'm not sure how limited they were. There's no numbering on them.
Sure.
I have seen this model before, but as far as I know, no numbering for them.
Yeah.
But again, it's a nice thing to have in the sale.
Big name and no sort of sign of the market for anything related to Banksy being in any sort of
not that I
any
can see.
sort of change really now that he's a named artist.
Not that I can see. And actually, when they come in like that with the right sort of provenance from the hotel he designed, I just think that.
And again, if
just
you
a good
want
thing.
A Banksy, but you don't have six figures, you can pick up one of these
relatively
cheap.
It does have his original bit of wall in there that has been put together. Another quite interesting thing in there, there's a watercolour by Christiane Kubrick. Now, this was purchased by the vendor directly from the artist in the 1960s.
Yeah.
And it is exactly the time when Stanley Kubrick was doing his 2001 A Space Odyssey.
Oh, fantastic.
And I think in the film, there's only the monolithic block that is any form of any, otherworldly being in that. But you can see they were married at the time, that it was very much in their thought process and their psyche as a couple. Around that time, so that's quite interesting. I think it's in at 500 to 1,000, but
interesting.
It's just
slightly terrifying, aren't they? But
they are slightly terrifying.
They're a connection with probably the most famous film director that there is.
Yeah, I think so. But
and at a time when he was making, certainly my favourite film, but a great film, 2000.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
I've never seen. I don't think we've ever sold a Is it Christine?
Christiane Kubrick. So she was of German origin. I think she starred in one of his earlier films actually, and they met on set.
So how much do our artwork typically sell for?
So they can sell for a couple of thousand. Mid to low hundreds is not unusual. High hundreds certainly not unusual, but they tended to be more conventional, sort of still lives and things like this. So this is a very chancy, if you like.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm interested to see what will happen on the day.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting thing.
What does it say down the bottom here?
It says
something come closer.
They won't come closer.
They won't come closer.
They won't come closer. Thankfully.
Yeah.
they don't look great.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that.
But maybe just a little window into what was going through Stanley Kubrick's mind and part of his thought process when he was making the film. Yeah,
great.
So as a sale, it's about 250 lots.
Okay.
And a real variation.
I've got a low estimate of around about 40,000. So some really nice things in the auction.
Absolutely.
How is the current market? I mean, you obviously hear lots of things. If you watch the news too much, you'd think that the art market maybe was collapsing as a result of the problems in the Middle East, but we're not really seeing that at the mid-level, are we?
No. I think for works with provenance, there's always works that don't come on the market that often. So I'm thinking things like the Bob Law, the Bruce Ono-Brakpai works, the Nigerian artists. I think there's collectors for those who will be prepared to buy the right works at any time, no matter what's going on in the world. I think with this sale, the good thing is we've got a lot of things priced right.
Yeah.
So I think even if people are reading too much news and perhaps looking at their savings, pensions and things like this, they're not at a level where you'd be thinking, wow, I've really got to make a major decision.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of really good and very affordable but highly collectible art in this sale.
Yeah, fantastic. And I guess a trend that we're seeing longer term is this, a shift towards this kind of art being popular in our sales and making more money than the traditional Victorian watercolours or whatever it may be. There's maybe a market that's just not really there anymore.
No, I mean,
in general terms.
Yeah, in general terms, I think you're probably right. When I look at there's a lot of works here from the 1980s. When I think about the demographics of it, you know, people are actually bringing these works into us now.
Yeah.
Which I find exciting, because this is probably my 20th century is my favourite period of art. I mean, I spent a long time looking at Victorian, Georgian pictures, and I just developed a love of more modern works. So it's a great time.
It's all about the names. It's all about the names of the artists, isn't it? That you've got coming in, what provenance that you have. And,
absolutely.
It's an exciting thing.
Yeah, and there's some real hidden gems, I think, among some of these artists, because you can see people like the David Inshaw. You know, I think people are just starting to realise now what a great painter he was. So I think his works are very much on the up, as a lot of these things are.
Well, as you know, we've always tried here to champion those artists on the secondary market who maybe don't have a big track record of sales. Exactly. So John Plum being an example of the recent sale that we had. What can you tell us about the artwork I've got behind me and the sale we have there? So
these are all coming up on the 1st of May, so the Friday this week. They are, it's 109 lots. It's a single artist collection. Street artist called Schneider.
Okay.
And they are all very much of this ilk. So they're geometric. They're acrylic on most of them on board. Really great production values. You know, most of them are beautiful beechwood panels and box framed, as you can see there. But lovely production values. He came to painting quite late in life. He had a couple of sellout exhibitions in London. And I think what's quite interesting is who Schneider was. He was Mick Griffiths. So he was a music agent. So he had a stable of bands, Ocean Colour Scene, Mogwai, the Go Team, Jesus and Mary Chain.
So live event promoter, I think, or agent.
Did all sorts of things for them.
And it kind of tied quite closely with Creation Records, I think. So in the 90s, and people like Jesus and Mary Chain, big influences on some of his bands. And you mentioned Ocean Colour Scene as well there, so he was heavily involved with them from right back in the Molesley Shoals album back in the 90s. So
showing my age, a great album that was.
They're really, I love these. I mean, there's you said there's about 110 of them in the sale.
Yeah,
and they're like this, the kind of the black and white, all acrylic.
Some of them quite colourful. They are all acrylic. They're all geometric based. There's a lot of squares in there, but I think they're super reasonably priced for what they are. I mean, they're so a 30 by 30 centimetre one is at 40 to 60, and then the biggest ones that we were seeing in the stairwell going down the stairs. They're 150 to 200. So, and they're everything in between. So I think these are 60 to 100 for that size.
And in the right house, in the right setting, if it's to your taste. Absolutely. This is affordable art at its best, really, isn't it? I mean, it's a big single owner collection and it's being sold on behalf of the family of the estate. So we have these sales regularly. We've got 4 of them a year, the big contemporary art sales. They seem to be getting bigger and better. So we're taking consignments in for the next one now. Yes, you're always happy to look at things on email and valuations?
Yeah, very happy to do that.
Yeah. So if anyone has any contemporary art to consign or even just wants an opinion, they can get in touch with us.
Absolutely.
Drop us an email. And
very happy to do it. Yeah. And we've already got a couple of really interesting items for the sale at the end of July as well.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Philip. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Gavel Gang Podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, please subscribe and take a look at the Eubanks website for more information on this and upcoming auctions. Until next time, going.